executive functions in adolescents with dyslexia, performing the Wisconsin card sorting test and ERP study. So if you remember the task that I was talking about with the cards, which you should match by color or by shape, I'm sure she's going to explain about it, yeah? So they use this task to see deficits in executive functions in adults, of course with dyslexia. Okay, and they conducted an ERP study, which is a test, a neurological test, which measures the electrical activity in the brain. Okay? יש פחד כאן, אז היא לא צריכה להתרגש, הכל בסדר. כולנו איתך.
Dyslexia is slow and inaccurate reading. It sits into adulthood despite interventions and exposure to written language. Prevalence among school-age children is about 5 to 10%. Disorder usually accompanies people that have dyslexia, which causes deficits in other domains such as executive function. Wisconsin card sorting test, a normal psychological test that examines cognitive flexibility used in order to measure executive functions.
Okay, cognitive flexibility is shifting.
During the task, subjects sort cards according to given criteria, for example, numbers, colors, or shapes. The ball switches during the task, which allows the examination of the subject's ability to find the ball, shift it, and preserve and learn several trials.
Okay.
For example, sort the card on the button by its color or by its shape.
So can you show us how to sort it by color?
Yes, this is red and red, so it is a different shape. This and different number is 2 and there are 2 also. In recent years, studies have shown an impairment in executive functioning in adolescents with dyslexia in processes of inhibition, attention, and self-monitoring. However, there is a disagreement in the literature regarding the shifting ability of this population.
So they have a problem with inhibition, attention, and self-monitoring, but they were not sure about their inability or difficulty in terms of shifting. Okay? What is shifting?
Shifting is the ability to switch attention back and forth between mental sets and across regularity. inconsistency could be explained by the fact that studies have used the Wisconsin card sorting test. This test is useful for measuring executive function in general, but its results do not measure the different cognitive abilities separately. Therefore, it is not clear from these studies whether underperformance of subjects with dyslexia was the result of deficit in shifting or in other executive function. The research goal is to separate the general performance score of the Wisconsin card sorting test into the different executive functions abilities in adolescents with dyslexia. In an attempt to address the goal, the authors based the research on a study conducted by Barcelona in 2003. Suggested that the different executive function abilities reflected in the Wisconsin card sorting test can be separated using event-related potential. Measure brain responses that are the direct result of a specific sensory, cognitive, or motor event.
Electrical activity of the brain.
Hypothesis: participants will show lower accuracy and longer reaction time in shifting trials compared to trials in which no shifting occurred.
State trial is when they classify the cards by the same dimension, by color, and then when they were required to shift to shape or number, that was a shifting tool.
Adolescents with dyslexia will have shifting difficulties reflected by decreased P300A, P300B, N100, and P300 amplitudes.
So the idea is that the brain activation will be different for people with dyslexia when they need to shift, okay, compared with control.
Methodology. Participants, 57 adolescents between the ages of 12 to 13. 27 of them had dyslexia. 30 were age-matched skilled readers. All were native Hebrew speakers. All came from middle-class background. All had non-verbal IQs in normal range. Independent variable reading ability, dyslexia, typical reading.
Okay, this one was different for the two groups. Okay?
Dependent variable executive functioning measured by electrical activity in the brain. Okay. Mean reaction time, mean accuracy.
Okay, so actually the RT, these are the three dependent variables. They were explained by the independent variable, dyslexia and typical reading. So dyslexia and typical reading should influence the results in terms of the behavior of the ERPs, the brain electrical activity in these two groups. How, in addition to how long it took them to shift, okay, or to perform the task, and how accurate they were, how successful they were on the task, if they were correct or incorrect.
Prior to the Wisconsin card sorting test, performance of adolescents with and without dyslexia was assessed for general ability, attention, reading, and word recognition. The Madrid card sorting test was used in order to test the shifting ability of the participants and separate it from the other executive function abilities.
Okay, because this task actually measures a few things, a few components of executive functions. So they wanted to isolate the shifting abilities and test it separately of the other executive functions.
It is a computerized version of Wisconsin card sorting test that measures ERP components when task shifting is involved. In the study, this task consisted of 24 choice cards that were to be matched with 4 target cards by color, shape, or number. Results. Significant differences in reading and cognitive tasks were found between individuals with dyslexia and skilled readers. Individuals with dyslexia showed lower memory span, symbol search, and coding scores. They are significantly slower in letter and object naming tasks.
So this is the profile of their dyslexia. Okay? They were different. Okay?
Experimental results. The both groups exhibited greater amplitudes for shifting trials as compared to state trials.
So all of the participants from both groups performed more, they showed greater amplitudes and more electrical activity in the shifting trials. But
individuals with dyslexia showed higher error rates and slower reaction times in the Madrid card sorting test. Skilled readers showed greater N100 and P300 amplitudes compared to subjects with dyslexia. Can this impaired performance be the result of a deficit in cognitive processing in the state of data implementation or in the state of shifting? Discussion. The behavioral results pointed to a deficit in working memory and speed of processing among individuals with dyslexia. The shifting capacity relies on these functions, since the subject has to remember his previous move and the remaining options and to process the information quickly. Thus, it may be the case that the shifting ability itself is not impaired in individuals with dyslexia and is just affected by the deficit in working memory or by